How are you all? I hope everyone is back. Are you ready for the next session? Say yes. थोड़ा और जोर से. Yes. That's the energy. That's the energy. All right. Okay. So, how many bug hunters in the club? Whoa, nice. Okay. All right. Then the upcoming session, which is authentication bypass, which is a part of OWASP top 10, which falls under the 7th category. We are going to discuss about this and getting diving deeper into authentication bypass. We have Abdallah with Twitter name goes with HackerX007. All right, so it's your stage now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you all in such a great conference that gathered all of us here today. And in that context, I would like to thank all the organizers who gave this conference a chance to be. Let's start. I would be happy to start my participation, which is, as you can see, the Art of Authentication Bypass. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Abdallah AL Mohameed, known as HackerX007. By the way, I never watched any James Bond movie. It's just a name. Bug Cloud top 50. B1 Warrior ranked top 10 with more than 200 B1 in Bug Cloud. Hacker Cup winner 2022, 2023. And head of fame of a lot of companies like Meta, MailRU, and X. Today we are going to talk about 6 topics, 6 methods about authentication bypass. The first topic would be authentication bypass via path manipulation, authentication bypass via Improper redirection handling, authentication bypass via cross-subdomain cookie reuse, and authentication bypass via bypassing registration restriction. Last but not least, deep dive into authentication and access control vulnerabilities in ASMX and SVC, URL scan and trigger for bug bounty hunter finding authentication bypass. All of these topics and scenario and bugs, I will show you bugs, example of these bugs I found during my bug bounty journey. So, let's start with authentication bypass via path manipulation. It was one of the strangest bugs I ever found, and it was one of the most enjoyable one. In short way, what is path manipulation? I will make it so simple. Access to protected endpoint by appending non-protected endpoint for them. Let's start with the example. During my test in Bug Bounty app, I found an endpoint called config user. When you open it, it's redirect you again to browser, redirect you again to login ASPX. As you can see here, sending a GET request to config user, the response is 302, and it redirects us to login page again. So an idea came to my mind, why I wouldn't try like config user.aspx/login to ASPX. And to my surprise, this worked. It was a weird idea, but it's still working. As you can see in the request, config user.aspx, which the config user is a protected endpoint. As you saw in the previous picture, it's not allowing us to access it to redirect us to login page. But when I abandoned login ASPX to this endpoint, as you can see in the response now changed to 200 OK with the content, as you can see in the HTML response, the center user. That means the page is working. Also, you can see in the GET request, there is no cookie information or any session information. This led to full authentication bypass, give me all the access as admin privilege to all other endpoints, example, admin.tsp. This was just a front end access or front-end bypass? No, I was able to list all the users in the application and even delete, edit user with full admin privilege. This unusual yet critical B1 with 8K in bounty. What we have learned from this, always trust your thought, even it was weird thought. Always try to non-protected endpoint/protected endpoint or the reverse protected endpoint, appending them to non-protected endpoint. Second, we have a method we call authentication bypass via Improper redirection handling. It's easy bug to find and still existing, and you can get a great bounty with huge amounts. Let's start by defining what is Improper redirection handling. It's a bug where the web application mismanage URL redirection by processing or delivering sensitive content and action before checking for user authentication, which can lead to unauthorized access or sensitive data exposed. In short way and simple way, sending GET request to protected endpoint or sending post request to protected endpoint, you can see the content of this protected endpoint, or the post function you have sent have succeeds, then the authentication process will start and redirect you again to login page. But it's too late since we have already seen the content, or all our post function have succeeds before redirection. So one example, while I was working in admin.target.com, I found an endpoint called admin/login. Reading JavaScript file in this login.aspx, I found two endpoints, main ASPX and add user ASPX. Opening main ASPX using the browser, it redirects me again to login page. But Vulnerability has a different story to tell. Sending main.aspx to the repeater as a GET request and send the request from there, I noticed the response have unusual large content length, much larger than the expected or typical redirect response, as you can see here. Sending GET request to main.aspx, the response is 302, which redirect us, and you can see the location header redirect us to login page. And also you can notice the HTML code, which redirect us again to login page. But if you take a good look at the content length header, you can notice it's high. It's much larger than normal redirect response. Also, you can notice in the response, there was the content of the main ASPX endpoint. So, using bar match and brace, using bar inspect element, I was able to change 302 by changing 302 to 200, removing the location header, removing the HTML code reduction. I was able to achieve full authentication bypass, fully functional and not just a front end. Using the same steps and add user to ASPX, using the same steps above, I was able to access the add user ASPX, and from the endpoint name, you can know it's for adding an admin account to the panel. So, sending GET request for admin.aspx, I was able to see all the function, all the form in this endpoint as HTML, and I was able to make an post request for this endpoint to add user. Of course, I can keep testing all other endpoints like admin.aspx or any other endpoint using the same steps, but adding a user account would made this thing much easier for us and will expand our attack surface. So yeah, back again, after adding a user request and the post request to add user to the ASPX, I was able to add an admin account into the panel. After making an admin account to the panel, login, and I found an endpoint to run Microsoft SQL command query. For my luck, the XBC MD shell was enabled, which gave me directly RC. As you can see in this picture, executing who I am command using XBC MD shell on Microsoft SQL service and the response of it. Easy bug, but it's still worth 35K. What we have now from this, when you open a protected endpoint that redirects you again to login page, try to send it to the repeater and see the response from there. When you found an authentication bypass to any panel, report it and ask the program owner to escalate the impact. That just don't stop an authentication bypass bug, because bugs like RC, for example, can significantly increase your bounty. So we have another third part. I called it authentication bypass via cross-subdomain cookie reuse. Let's start by defining what is this. It's a bug where the cookie from subdomain are misused in other subdomain that allowing potential access to a sensitive area that this cookie was not meant for. For simplicity, let's take example as bugcloudsupport.com. I was working in this subdomain. I found this a CNAME for third-party service hosted in bugcloudsupport.com. You should remember this CNAME. Let's say the provide a support panel for various customers. For example, let's say bugcloud Twitter ATT, allowing their clients submit support ticket directly to the support team. So this third-party by default, not allowing a new registration, new user to register an account, it have function called as request access function. This function works by sending a request or form that you put your email on it, and the admin should approve this request. And this request access function is default setting in this third-party panel. But their definition says that you can change this request access to full registration. But unfortunately for me, bugcloudsupport.com, which was our target, is using the default setting. So using some Google Docs, like as you can see, I found another customer. Let's assume it's Twitter. A Twitter allowing registration, unlikely the default setting that our target use, which is requesting access. After full registration in twitter.support.com, I was able to log in, and I read some JS file. I found an API called as API/get admin configuration. And from this API name, you can know what the point of it. So trying the access to this endpoint in Twitter, back again, Twitter, that's not our target, it's a customer that allowing registration. So trying the endpoint in Twitter, I was able to access to this API call, and I was able to view all admin settings and even passwords. It's broken access control vulnerabilities. Since you are just a normal user, you don't have admin privilege to access this endpoint. So since my target was bugcloud.support.com, I tried to access the same endpoint. I thought it's maybe require no authentication to access this endpoint. I tried to access, but I received unauthorized 401. So back to Twitter, where we have created account and made account, I noticed any API call get from Twitter.support.com, it requires authentication cookie called support hub with a random value. So, out of curiosity, I asked myself why I wouldn't try this same cookie and the same value in API request that we work in our target, like bugcloud.support.com API get admin configuration. By just copying this cookie and this value of this cookie and put it in the request. And to my surprise, the 401, it's now 2, with a different admin password and different admin settings, which indicate and mean that data we get from bugcloudsupport.com was the target, not for, was a data for this target, not for Twitter, since we have a different password and setting. That means the authentication cookie we get from twitter.support.com was valid for any API call on our target, which is bugcloudsupport.com. In short way, if we found a customer that allowing registration and your target was not allowing registration have function called request access, we can make an account on that customer that allowing registration, take the cookies value and the cookie name, authentication cookie, and put it for any API call in our target, which was a subdomain on support.com. And that worked. Easy trick, simple trick, but it costs much as 15K in bounty. What we have learned from this part, when you are targeting a subdomain that operate in third party, try to search for other customers using the same third party. And in the other customer, try to see what function are available for them and not available for your target, especially function when it comes to session management or authentication. Take this function and test them in your target. If you have two subdomains and they are using the same app, one subdomain allowing registration and the other subdomain not allowing registration, try to make an account on that subdomain that already allowing registration and take the cookie header or take the authentication header or cookie or any something related to authentication and try to access API calls on that subdomain. By the way, it was 0 day. We found me and Orwa in third party. Next, we have authentication bypass via bypassing registration restriction. It's similar to the previous bug, but it have, just a sec. It have a critical aspect we must consider. Let's say our target was target.com. Using Google Docs, I found an third party, yes, that our target used as target.com. Testing in this third party, I found an endpoint to create an account/create, but it has been disabled by purpose and not working anymore. Using Google Docs like site at thirdparty.com, I found another customer. Let's assume it's bugcloud. Bugcloud was using the same third party, but the different thing was the bug cloud allowing registration, as you can see in the next page. As you can see in this picture, our target registration page was just empty page. It has been disabled, and bug cloud third-party.com account creates what was fully working registration page. So what I did, using the registration request, make my bulb on and full other information in target bugcloud.third-party.com, which is allowing registration. Take this request into my bulb repeater, and just I change the host header to target.third-party.com. After sending the request, it's worked. Since the email verification, you just use your own email. I registered with my email, and I received an email verification from our target. After verifying it and login again, I was able to access this panel, as you can see here. There are lots of ins, but as a hacker, the first thing you will try to access the user's endpoint. Anyone can do this. So accessing the user's endpoint, I received 401 and authorized. So an idea just came to my mind. Since this just meant for employees, for this target, why I wouldn't change my email to like hackerx007@target.com. Also, there was a problem that if you change your email after registration, there's no email verification. So you can put any email you wanna. So I changed my email to hackerx007@target.com. And after this, I log out and log in again and try to access the same endpoint, which was users. And for my luck, it's worked. I can access to all the function in the panel, including adding, deleting, edit users, as you can see in this picture. What we have learned from this, similar to the US bug, test the other customer that use the same third-party that your customer are using. See what function are available for them, not available for you. Take this request for this function and send it to the repeater. Change any required header you should change, like host header, referrer, CSRF token, and see maybe this function would be work in your target. Fourth, last but not least, we have a deep dive into authentication and access control vulnerabilities in ASMX and SVC. First, how many bug bounty hunter found an ASMX and SVC in bug bounty? You can find a lot of ASMX and SVC during your test. Most of hunters, they just skip this endpoint, ASMX and SVC, but it have a critical impact in the application. Let's start what is ASMX and SVC. They are a web server technology using in .NET. ASMX used for simple web service, and SVC a part of WS support multiple protocol, communication protocol. So why you should never overlook or miss SVC and ASMX during your bug bounty hunting? Approximately 95 of the SVC and ASMX endpoint I found during my test that have require no authentication. The whole ASMX page require no authentication, or have some operation, a critical operation, let's say, that don't need any authentication to perform this operation. This lack of measures can lead to different type of vulnerabilities, a critical one like PII, IDOR, broken access control, SQL injection, and local file, as we will see the next pictures. So, how and where to find ASMX and SVC's endpoints? When you are working in the .NET app, try to read the JavaScript file, or any app, or not just .NET. Try to read the JS file good. Use extension like BarbJS, Link Finder, and use CAP. Also use Google and Bing Docs. It was so useful for us. And as well as the site that catch URLs like WebArchive, URL scan, and Aristotle, so you can sometimes find ASMX and SVC endpoint. See, by fuzzing, and this is the most important thing, always when you are working on .NET apps, try to fuzz for extension like ASMX and SVC. Always fuzz for batch like, try to search for this batch, for example, web service. Also we have service like admin service, manager service, etc. Subdomain service, like if you have manager.target.com, manager is the subdomain name, try manager service or manager web service. App name service, like if you have manager.target.com and have app name or path called center, try center service, center web service, or you can also try in this batch like center/center web service and center service. So let's say you found one of this batch and you're trying to access the ASMX and SVC endpoint on it. You can fuzz, as I told you before, when you are working on .NET apps, try to fuzz for ASMX and SVC extension. Try also to fuzz like fuzz service.asmx or CVC. Try appname.asmx or CVC. Also try subdomain.asmx or CVC. Or you can try appname service.asmx CVC, subdomain service.asmx CVC. So you find an endpoint of ASMX or CVC, how to use it. I recommend you to use SOBI. It's easy tool to use and it's free. As you can see, use it with WSDL as a parameter. This will list all operation in the app. As you can see in this picture, you can put any project name and you put the WSDL endpoint as a parameter. So after this will list all of the operation in this endpoint, ASMX and CVC. As you can see here, the first operation called active archive key, active permission, active user, and each operation take parameters. For example, in the request here, we have an operation called download file request, and it take complete file batch. Of course, all of you know how this endpoint will end. I will talk about this endpoint, especially this operation later. You have a different choice to use parameter. Most of ASMX and CVC endpoint give you a list of operations to use directly, as you can see here. If you click on any operation, you can get the request of this operation, copy it and send it to the parameter and put the value of the parameter as you want to test. Some bugs using ASMX and CVC, what you can find here. As you can see, I talked about this operation. It's called download file request. It takes a parameter called complete file batch path. I tried to access, first thing is web config, especially when you are trying to testing ASP.NET or Microsoft apps, you first thing you try to access is the web config because you can get RC from this file. So anyway, I tried to access web config and the response, as you can see here, was base 64. Most of local file inclusion I found in SPX, especially SMX and CVC, was the response of this file was just encoded as base 64. So decoding the base 64, I was able to see all the content of this web config, which led to us using the machine key with all we will talk about. SQL injection, for example, this endpoint this operation have an parameter called SQL, and this parameter was directly run Oracle SQL command to service to server, as you can see here, SQL query and the response. Also, you can find PII, and this endpoint, for example, we have an operation called get user. And from this operation name, you can know what the function of it. Sending a request using this operation, the response was there. As you can see, it have a lot of sensitive information for all users, including their email. As you can see in the picture, also username, passwords, and emails. Also, you can find a lot of other vulnerabilities like RC. I found a lot of RC using ASMX and CVC, but it's much different than normal RC. I found an endpoint ASMX that have operation called create file in the create file. This operation allow you to create file in the server directly, and it takes just 3 parameters. The first parameter, it take like complete file batch of this file where you want to put your file, and it also have file name. You can name your file, and it have also the third parameter called file content. So I try to make a shell for example. The file name was hackerx007.aspx. And the file content in ASMX and CVC endpoint, it have important note that most of them, it take the file value or file content as base 64. So you should decode it, encode it as base 64. For example, your ASP X shell, and after this, after the encoded as base64, you can put it in the file content parameter. What we have learned from this? Never, ever miss ASMX and SVC is bound. It's a trigger for bugs. Also, try to check all the operation in these endpoints. Some operation might require authentication, but as I told you, some other operations are critical operation that require no authentication. Also, when you are working ASP.NET application, make your best to search for these endpoints as using the method we have discussed, especially the fuzzing methods. Last, we have a URL scan and trigger for bug bounty hunter finding authentication bypass vulnerabilities. Let's start by what is URL scan. URL scan is a powerful scanner technology that allows the security and risk management to analyze and understand a particular URL. Unfortunately, most of scans on URL scan are public, making them a double-edged sword by allowing anyone to view these scans. As bug bounty hunter, what I can accept to find a URL scan. You can find hidden endpoints that might expose vulnerabilities. For example, as I said, ASMX and SVC's endpoint. You can also find a password reset token, which can lead to authentication bypass and account takeover, especially if this tokens was for employees. Third, we have confirmation link registration that on subdomain that not typically open for public registration. And this third part we will talk about as an example. So, for example, I was working in admin.target.com. I found an endpoint for registration called admin.registration. As you can see, I tried first to register with my own personal email. When I try to register with my own personal email, I get cannot register. It's not accepted except this email, as you can see. So I tried to access and register. I tried to register with a company email like hackerx007@target.com. The application indicates that it accepted and the email verification has been sent to this email we have registered. But so we don't have any luck to access this email or any other organization email since we don't own them. So using URL scan, as you can see, I searched for admin.target.com. And you can see the last URL was taken a parameter called A with a value reg, meaning registration. And also you can notice UID in number value. That means the UID of the user. Opening this registration link in the browser, I found out the link is still active. As you can see here, it asks us for the first name and the last name, and it shows us the email address for this user, this email address that the link has sent for. Also, the most important thing, it asks us for a password. So, for the information and put a password, I was able to access to this endpoint, to this panel, and with full admin access, easy trick, it led me 10K in bounty. What we have learned from this, always search on URL scan. It's a trigger, especially for account takeover, for employees or hidden endpoints or any something like this. You can find the great stuff in VirusTotal and URL scan. Also, you can use the VirusTotal as well as URL scan. For more information in VirusTotal, you can see our presentation. This, if you use the VirusTotal and URL scan, it will expand your attack surface so much. Here we have some bounties using this method. As you can see, the first bounty, it was 20K in bounty. It was using the bypass and registration restriction. The second bounty is my favorite bug I ever found. It was a great and so much critical. It was in 30K in bounty. As you can see, it was authentication bypass, which led to RC and more than 1 million account BII disclosure, including passwords, and its 30K in bounty. The last bounty I have at 25K, it was just simple using the ASMX and SVC. Also, by the way, the 30 bounty, it was using the improper registration instruction, improper redirect handling. Okay? It's easy, as I told you, it's easy trick that learned me this bounty. Last word, final talk. Bug bounty might seem hard, but it's truly within everyone's reach. With a curiosity and a little bit of effort, let's stop in the curiosity word. As you saw on all the previous examples, the curiosity was the main reason to finding these bugs. Without curiosity, you can't find it. I was just asking myself, I should try this, I should put this, I should try this. And all this thought, it was weird. I didn't accept any of them working, especially in path manipulation, things or the cookie reuse. I didn't accept this will work, but I said, let's try it. And then I'm not losing anything. And yes, it's worked. So anyone can find this bug. Remember, it's not just about the effort, it's about the smart approach. Okay? You have got this, start exploring and see what you can discover. Thank you all for your listening. I really appreciate your time and attention. Thank you. Now I would be happy to hear any question if anyone have any question. No question? Okay, I hope all enjoy in this talk. Thank you again.